Corssland, just like the slide says. The company is Fuel3D. We're going to talk to you a little bit about 3D scanning. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it. So one of the things that's kind of come about is there's a lot of hobbyist 3D printing now. So there's kind of professional people that are doing things with 3D printers, whether it's rapid prototyping or 2D designing. But a lot of people have 3D printers just to kind of tinker with them. And the question is, what are most people doing with their 3D printer? And they're doing stuff like this. They're printing Yoda heads, they're printing like little rabbits, they're downloading stuff from Thingiverse, which is all really cool and fun. But there seems to be a little bit of a parallel with what was going on with printers in the early 90s, and it's clip art. So there's a real issue, kind of, if you look at the actual community, what really changed with printers and why they really kind of, I'm talking about just a traditional printer at this point, really started to become popular, and people really started to utilize them more, and that was the digital camera. So the idea one of the ideas that we're really trying to put forth is taking 3D printers to another level, where instead of printing content that somebody else has, you're printing content that you're creating yourself, and that you're bringing it from your actual world. So it's a common problem around everybody. How do we get things from our world into the virtual world? So this is an image of this boxer head that's down here. Just hold it up so you guys can see it. So if I had this head and I wanted to use this in a project, whether I'm going to use it in ZBrush or I'm going to try and 3D print it or do something like that, how do I do that? How do I go from this to an STL file, essentially? So there's already a lot of different types of scanners, 3D scanners. Apparently you get extra points for making them really odd shapes and different configurations. So we need a shape that does not yet exist. And this is the actual scanner here. So we're actually utilizing some different technology, not just a different shape of scanner. You guys are a tough crowd, I'm getting in the last thing. So what makes it so special? So aside from the shape, what makes it different? If you look at the types of things that people want to scan, one of the top things that we get questions about is I want to scan my face, or I want to scan my friend's face, I want to scan a person. And if you look at what kind of exists on the market, you've got really good resolution scanners that are pretty affordable, but they tend to be a tabletop scanner, so they don't really help you in that sense. Or they're a Connect-based technology where you get basic geometry, but you're not really getting great structure. So I may look at it and go, oh, that's my friend, but I don't know which one. It looks like a silhouette. You have to tell me that it's Joe or whoever. And when you do get something that has that quality and additionally has high quality color, you're usually going to pay $10,000 for it. So the concept with Fuel3D was to try and do kind of what the MakerBots did for 3D printing, was take something that was a higher end technology and make it way more attainable on the lower end. So it's high quality and affordable. Again, it's trying to make the scanning more accessible to the mass market, so that instead of just printing clip art, you're actually printing things that you're creating. Provide the best quality data at the lowest price, and help personalize 3D printing. That's really what it's all about. That's what people seem to get most excited about, is seeing their face on something, or to be able to do that with someone else. So what makes us different? So we use a process called stereophotogrammetry. It's essentially one of the oldest types of 3D imaging was photogrammetry. We use two different cameras, and I'm just going to really briefly kind of go over this so that it kind of sums it up. So we use two different cameras at two different angles, and then we use three different lighting sources. And so it's called shape from shading, and the analogy I use that makes sense to me at least is if you imagine you're in say in this room and it's dim, and you've got a golf ball in your hand. And in your other hand, you've got a little pen light, and you started moving it back and forth. You can start to see the little contours on the golf ball, all the little ridges and shapes. We do a much more complicated version of that, essentially. So we essentially are taking pairs of images, so one with each camera from different angles, just like your eyes. You have two eyes that are pointing differently. And then as you take the image, light flashes, and we get the contour of the object and the texture of the object from that angle, then this angle, and then this angle, if that makes sense. So that's really base how it works. The other part of what we do is called optical localization. So we essentially use a rangefinder little circle up there. Looks like this. This one's just affixed to this, so it's easier to hold up. But when you're doing a person or an object, you would just place this on it. The camera actually uses it just like your Android or iPhone. When you take a picture, it goes, hey, that's a head. It goes, hey, that's the target. And then we use a stoplight system. So it's red, yellow, green. It tells you how far, how close you are. And the sweet spot's about 40 centimeters away from whatever you're scanning. So it locks onto it, and that allows us to know the relative to the object and the camera where it is in free space, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like a rangefinder. So that allows us to get high quality geometry and color data out of what we're doing. So that's another thing that isn't really relevant totally to 3D printing right now. There's some companies like Emcor that are doing some color 3D printing. But as 3D printing moves forward, assuming everything goes, we'll be able to eventually print in color. And so we want your scans to be able to have that same color. So to do a demo to show you how this technology works, I'm going to bring up our friend here, Dave the Alien. Dave. Come over, Dave. So you're going to notice I'm holding two different things here. So this is the non-working prototype right now. This is essentially what the camera is going to look like in full production. It's going to be tethered to a computer. You can use the actual free space in here while you're holding it to use it as a viewfinder. There's an indicator on the back that tells you how far close you are. Or you can just use the monitor that you have on your computer. This is a working prototype, so it's a lot clunkier, it's a lot heavier, it's got a screen on it. So basically what we did is take in a proven technology that we know works, and we're just repackaging it into a smaller package. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the screen on the camera is actually going to do, like I said, with the finding the face. It's going to find the target. It's going to tell me how distant I am from our alien here. And then I'm going to hold the triggers down, and you're going to see the flashes that I was talking about as far as when we're going to the golf ball. So that's it. So, I mean, that's literally as difficult as it is to scan something. It's actually much easier on the finished product because the buttons are on top. It's just like a regular camera. You hold it up, you point it at something, you get it to that approximate distance, and then you press the buttons and you have your image. I'm going to really quickly hook up my tablet here so that I can show you all what the images look like. So I know it's a little hard to see in here. This is what the scan would look like. Can you guys see it well from there? It's really dim where I'm standing. But let's try to move this a little better. You can see we get really great color data with these scans, as well as geometry. So I'm just going to do a couple different modes here, and I'm going to run you through a couple different types of things that we can scan so we get a good idea what they look like. I'm just going to toggle this. This is essentially the topographical high to low image. And so, sorry, Dave, can you come back up? See? You face them for me. Thank you. Very well behaved alien. So you can see, I mean, the details, actually, I don't mean to boss the alien, but do you want to walk down the middle row so they can see a little bit? No? Okay. He's stubborn. But you can see a lot of the contour and texture in his face you actually can get with the camera. One of the questions we get a lot is how detailed our point clouds are, how many points we have. Let me just zoom in here so that you guys can get an idea of the detail. So the mesh on this, as you can see, is extremely detailed. as one of our guys says, the mesh is so good you don't know it's the mesh until you're in the mesh because you have to zoom in so far. So, I mean, it's very high resolution data that we're capturing. So let me show you guys a couple other little things here that we've imaged just to give you an idea of the types of things that you can take pictures of. This is just some wine corks. So you can see again, you get really good color data. I'm sorry, Dave, you can sit down now. You get it. You can get really good color data out of it, as well as, again, the geometry is really kind of the selling point here for most people are going to do as far as 3D printing. You can see all the little contours and imperfections in the wine corks. One of the questions we get, what's the size of the image? It's about 35 centimeters diagonally. The software that comes with the camera will actually also allow you to stitch the images. It's an auto registration. So that means as long as the images are 25% overlapped at a minimum, the software will go ahead and stitch them all together for you. So it's going to give you the geometry. So with what we did here with Dave the Alien, take an image, just move to the side, take an image, take an image. We've actually got a full 3D image of his head. See it very accurately stitches the geometry together. And I'm actually going to pass around, we have printed one with a MakerBot, and faster you can pass it around if you'd like to pass your own face. But just to give you the idea, just to give you guys an idea of kind of the output, one of the things right now is actually the 3D printers actually most of them aren't able to print at the resolution that our scans are. So it's kind of future-proofing a little bit. It's also a nice way if you want to get into 3D printing and scanning, but you don't know which printer you want to get, you can use a scanner like this and kind of use it as your benchmark. Use something like Shapeways, have stuff printed and see where it looks the best, and then kind of do it from there. I'm not going to bore you guys with a foot. So this is a cool one. So this is actually the cover of a book. And all these objects, or I should say most of these objects are actually at our booth, like in a case, so you can see them. This is just the cover of the book. What's really cool with this is, A, you can see, we capture that geometry really well, but we actually pick up the texture that's on the front cover. So you're actually able to see detail like that. This is some tree bark. Again, we image things anything that has really good texture to it. We have the same trouble that other scanners do when it comes to something being transparent or highly reflective or shiny. You can do things to get around that, whether it's painting it or adding powder to it. For example, this is just a Gatorade bottle that was spray painted. You guys can see the lightning bolt up there at the top. So I mean, again, it allows you to still capture something even if it has that reflectivity. Any questions about the scans or anything that someone wanted to see as a scan or anything like that real quickly? No? Oh, you guys are easy. Difficult to get a laugh, but easy to not get a question, right? That's easy. Alright, so what I'm going to show you guys now is one of the things is if you're not going to 3D print it, what other types of things can you do with it? So there's an artist in LA we work with, his name's John Mahoney, and I'm going to show you two little videos. They're actually pretty entertaining. On the computer here. One of them is we sent him some scans of our team members and he just did some little mesh ups and made a short video. It's like 2 minutes. And the other one's him talking about kind of how he did it in ZBrush. It's pretty interesting to watch. So just give me 1 second while I disconnect again. So it's just, again, just kind of give you an idea of the kinds of things that you can create. John uses ZBrush to create that stuff. So this is actually a video of him talking about how he actually does it. Before I show you guys this, do you guys have any questions? So the question is, how big can you go with the scan? This is a question we get a lot. So like I mentioned earlier, each individual scan is 35 centimeters diagonally, and the software will actually do the audio registration and stitch them together. So it's really dependent more on the user. I wouldn't scan something really big. It would take a long time. And I absolutely don't want to get up here and just absolutely do like our product's the absolute best. You don't need to buy any other products. It's one of the things where, again, depending on your application, you may need two scanners. You may need something that's a low res, just basic geometry scanner. So again, actually, I want to scan a person. You can use a Connect-based technology and get basic geometry of clothing. You don't need all the detail in my shirt, all the texture in my shirt. You don't care if you're just going to 3D print it or use it or something. So you may use a lower resolution technology or something that lets you capture basic geometry, and then use our scanner to get the geometry you want for the face and the hands. I mean, the things that we relate to as people when we see someone else or we see an object, and then add that in. So you can kind of mesh those two scans together. So you're getting the basic geometry from one scan, and then the higher resolution scan from ours, and then putting them together. Does that kind of answer your question? I mean, you can do something really big, but it would take a lot of time to do something like a house. I mean, it's difficult.
What do you have to put after you scan?
So the question is, how much work do you have to put in after you scan something? We're really trying to stay as far removed from the process as possible. So we're really just producing the scans, allowing you to do what you saw me doing on the tablet, which is, check image integrity, look at different things on it, do the auto registration and stitching so that you're able to use those scans to do something else. So we're really, in the workflow, we'd be more like the camera, and then someone else is the Photoshop, so to speak. So if you wanted to 3D print these, they're not like 3D print ready technically. You have to add a little bit of depth to it so that it can print, but it's some after processing that you have to do. So it's again, I'm not trying to not answer questions, it's user application. So if you were to do something like John is doing, he just dumps our stuff directly in there and he's ready to go with ZBrush. It's pretty much ready for ZBrush. You can do some editing in our software as well as far as just doing like trimming around the edges and cropping, but you can't go in depth and do a bunch of things. So you do some after processing.
What are the smallest size objects?
So the question is the smallest size object. Again, we can default to mine. Depends on what you're trying to do with it. Is your answer? If you scan a coin, you could absolutely capture the geometry of a coin depending on the size of it. Again, you're talking about something that's reflective. So we have a metal there. And then it's also going to be, I mean, a lot of people approach us about they want to do reverse engineering or do rapid prototyping. If you've got things that you actually have tolerances that you want to work a specific way. So again, for that, I would say, depending on what you're trying to do, there may be a different, like a tabletop scanner, may do something like that a little more efficiently than ours. But how user-friendly is the software is the question. Well, we're trying to get as close to Apple, I guess, as possible. Like the iPhone, just intuitive software. Some of it, I mean, you guys saw the software. I think it's pretty easy to use, but that's coming from a SKU point of view wrapping around it, so it's really easy for me to use. We try and take as much user feedback as possible and really try and make it as simple as possible. So, yep.
Does your software allow you to separate the mesh from like the map or the C map? Like, can you get the separate it?
Yeah, so the question is, does the software allow you to kind of rip the mesh off from the image and do something else with it? And again, so we're basically just exporting. We exported the PLY, OBJ, and STL. So we're just getting it out, and then what you do with it, it's again, we're trying to have like a very broad user base where if someone that wants to do something like that can take it out, they can do that. They have 3 of the main file formats to do that in, but we're not doing any of that internally. So it's literally just auto registration and stitching, like as involved in the creative process, like post-dated image as we go. Any other questions? No? Okay, cool. I'm going to show you guys this video. It's about 5 minutes, and it's John talking about how to use ZBrush to create these images that he did. And then while that's going on, I'm actually going to pass around. Yeah, this is one of the images that John took of Chris, who's sitting up here, and created the space. So we're going to print that as well.
This tool and bring it into an already existing base mesh. I blend it on in there and make it look clean. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is import my OBJ file, which is that, which is the
This is the scan we took with our scanner.
I actually cleaned up the edges a little bit before this demo. I didn't want to bore you guys too much with the actual cleaning up. But once you have the edge of your face clean, you slide it over there. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit for me going, but once you get it into position, you're going to be almost good to go. Now, sometimes I really pull it up. Sometimes it is more messy as long as the mesh overlaps. And then when you merge the layers, you're going to want to do this, which is to take the clay buildup and just fill in those gaps. And then when that's done, go to geometry and do Dynamesh. And I put my Dynamesh resolution way high, 13,000, so I want to make sure I didn't lose any detail. And I blast it out, make sure it blurs at 0. Click, drag on the canvas, which is Dynamesh. And all the seams should be pretty much filled in. So now what I have to do is go back to those areas that I used to clay buildup and just use the smooth tool and blend it on back in. Takes a little while, but looks pretty good. And also I'm blending in the hairline as well. And then once that's done, I can just go to my clay buildup tool and just draw it in back in. Very simple. And what I wanted to do just for this demo is not worry about the whole body since it's focused on the rest of it. But it's the need of the rest of the body. And you can see I'm jumping ahead a tiny bit. I added some little pores to the face as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give her eyes a little bit more depth. So I'm using my mask tool and masking out the area that I want to have more depth to that section. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to reverse the mask, click, hold down Control, click on the canvas. There we go. And then all I need to do is go to subtract and draw on top of that area. Actually, first I'm going to do is smooth it out a little bit first. Then go to subtract and just draw on it. You can see how quickly it pushes that area back. It's kind of a crude demo here, but you get the basic idea. You can control that fairly nicely. And then I'm going to choose a sphere and just drag that out. This is insert. I'm using the insert sphere option. So what I do is click sphere and then just click and drag it out. So what I try to do is get the first eye as good as I can get it, and then I'll just do duplicate and mirror. And after you do duplicate, you can go to the deformation palette and click mirror, and it'll pop it over the side. Of course, people's faces aren't symmetrical, so you may need to do a little bit of adjustment once they get down the other side. That's all good. I've done this demo several times where I actually mirror the face. Now this is a little weird. So I'm going to leave her face slightly asymmetrical, which I think is kind of natural. So anyway, that was a very quick demo on how to add a face to an existing face mesh. Here's me moving around a little bit with some cleaning. So anyway, thanks for listening. Good luck with your future projects, and I hope to hear from you soon. Take care.
So hopefully, I mean, what I try to do is kind of give you guys an idea of what kind of thing you can do with a scanner, give you an idea, you know, some of the outputs that you can make, so the things that we passed around, how you can kind of make 3D printing a little bit more personal. And then if you decide you're not really into 3D printing, but you still want to scan and you want to do something cool with it, you can do stuff like what John does with it. Does anyone have any other questions at all? You guys are great for questions. It's good right here. Yeah. So the question was the business model. So we're on Kickstarter, and we closed our Kickstarter campaign at the beginning of August, September. Yeah. So we launched in August, closed in September. We raised a little over $300,000, so about $325,000 on Kickstarter. And then we just got more funding and some managed to customers. So the question is how hard would it be to scan an animal? So there was a scan I didn't show you guys. We actually, when we scan hair, we actually pick up some of the geometry of the hair. You can see things like eyelashes, like my beard, you'll get some of the texture to it. I keep feeling like I'm giving you guys the same answer. It's going to depend on the animal. If you're trying to do like a tabby cat, you're going to end up with, I don't know, like, it's going to be like some weird shape blob thing. But if you try and do something like a dog or like, I mean, pigs are really good. I don't know if you're going to scan pigs, but pigs work great. I've scanned pigs before, oddly enough, and it really works well. So it's going to come down to if you're trying to just, again, capture basic geometry, or you really want to know it's like my dog and that's my dog, you may get some detail differences with that. And it may just be a trial and error thing. The other thing is getting them to hold still. And we've also got bright flashing lights. So animals tend to, not love that in their face. So his question was about the auto registration and the way that it puts the images together. And I said 25% minimum overlap. And his question was, does it matter if you actually do more? The more you do, kind of the better the quality is going to come out, in the sense that you're going to be able to fill gaps better, and you're going to have more geometry that it's able to overlay to kind of create your model. So the question is, when you're taking an image and you're going around something, how do you do that essentially? Do you move around it? So traditionally, you've seen some of the other scanners that are more like a wand. They use video capture to kind of paint the image. Ours doesn't really work like that. It works exactly the way you have to do it. You're going to direct like an iPhone. If you're doing a panorama, you kind of take a snap. Well, before they updated everything, take a snap, similar thing. So it does have a tripod mount on the bottom, so you can kind of see if you're an engineer type, you want to make a rig that will actually move, you can do something like that. But it's small enough and easy enough you can actually just snap a picture, and snap a picture, you're just moving around the object. Yeah, so you do 25% minimum, so you essentially, even if you're going up and down or left and right, you take the images, and then when you go in to actually have it put it all together, it'll piece all the images together. Any other questions?
Intellectual property and copyright that you said you use as far as your 3D printed have you thought about that?
Yes, the question is about kind of the elephant in the room with 3D printing and scanning and intellectual property and copyright, and what happens if you take an image of something that someone else has IP around or copyrighted and then reproduce it. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, it's definitely an issue in the community, but I don't know. So this is Chris with Fuel3D. He's got a better answer than I don't know.
I'm Chris from Fuel3D as well. So remind us this slide is that 3D scanners have been around for probably 20 or 30 years. So this challenge is not really new. And what we're doing here is a kind of different end of the scale. So if you really wanted to copy somebody's work, I mean, let's say you wanted to copy a Porsche 911, you wouldn't use our type of scanner. You would use something that probably cost you a couple £100,000. So there's kind of different technologies available, and it's something that's out there. But if you want to, I guess, if you wanted to, big faults with any industry, tape recorders when they were first sold, in principle, you could copy things off the radio. People typically did that, but people didn't get in trouble for copying off the radio because you're not kind of replicating that. So, I mean, I think it's something that is conceptually an issue that's interesting